first responders took pictures, and they also were the first ones to notify the media, and they notified TMZ first. They didn't even...
Gruesome pictures.
Yes, gruesome pictures. Nobody notified Vanessa first. She found out through TMZ that her husband and her daughter had died.
Life's Third Act is a podcast dedicated to helping you get the most out of your retirement. Sponsored by Tucker Allen. Here's attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
Welcome to another episode of Life's Third Act. Today we're going to talk about a sports celebrity, which might put you on notice that to some extent both of us are on thin ice to the extent we're talking in much detail about sports. However, because there's such a learning opportunity with this superstar that we thought we really need to wade into this so we can get to talking a little bit about the things that I think will be most helpful to you, and that's about the estate planning issues and opportunities to learn. So with that, Marley, do you want to wade into our sports topic?
Yeah, today we're talking about Kobe Bryant. I mean, we all know him very well for basketball, obviously. He was the 2008 MVP, an 18-time All-Star, a 15-time All-NBA team player. He has broken a bunch of records, done a lot of things in his career, had a 20-year-long career with the Lakers, which is crazy that he was never drafted or left the team from there. But yeah, he was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. His childhood had a lot of influence on his career, along with his dad, who was actually an NBA player as well. He was born in Philadelphia, and his dad played and then retired when Kobe was 6, and then they moved to Italy, actually. There, his dad continued his career in basketball, but at a much smaller level. But Kobe really, he shined in Italy, which was wild. And I didn't know that basketball was such a big sport there, but I guess it is. And he always helped, during his dad's games. He would, run the points. He would mop the gym or the floor, and he would just help the team. And then during halftime, he would go out and he would shoot hoops and everything. And his dad mentioned that, when they would have to come back on the floor to play, the second part of the game, they would literally have to run him off the court. But he just adored basketball. I think it was really in his blood. It was in his family. His family really encouraged him in it, and he got really, really good at it at a very young age. And then that kind of led to them moving back to Philadelphia right before he started high school. And while in high school, he had just a huge career. He was the first freshman for his school to play on their varsity team, and he never left the varsity team since his freshman year. He had all kinds of scouts come searching for him. He had a lot of different opportunities at Duke and a couple different opportunities at Harvard, but ultimately he actually chose to go straight into the NBA draft.
Which was probably a wise decision.
Yeah. He actually watched another one of his teammates do it, and he didn't really know at the time that you could do that.
And that wasn't done much.
No,
at the
it
time.
really wasn't. He was number 6, I believe, in the league to do that when he did it. And he chose to go. I mean, he had a lot of scholarship opportunities, everything like that. And he's very, very smart, too. He did very well in school. He was actually, fluent in Italian and English. His family made sure, that they wanted somebody who was just well-rounded. And I think he had, I'm not sure how it works SAT because we take the ACT here, but he had a 1,080 SAT score, which I guess is really, really high. So he had all kinds of opportunities in front of him, but he just decided to go straight into the draft. And people really liked him because of that. And he luckily, during his high school career, also had a lot of exposure to the bigger teams. He worked out with a lot of them. He was invited to a lot of their different camps, especially with the Lakers. And so when he was up for draft, the Lakers kind of set it to be their own way. So he originally got drafted with the Charlotte Hornets.
That was the first pro team he went with?
Yeah. So what was odd, though, was the Lakers kind of set it up to where they would actually just go ahead and get him, but the Charlotte Hornets would be the ones that drafted him. And I'm not quite sure. I think drafting in the NBA is pretty similar to the NFL. But they said that they would take the Hornets' 13th pick. And then like a few minutes before they got to choose their 13th person, the Lakers were like, choose him. We want him. And what they did, why they did that was they pushed out one of their other guards, and then they were trying to free up salary to basically bring Shaquille O'Neal onto the team. So with that freed up salary also, they were like, well, we can pay a brand new player less, but he's also a player that we know has a lot of potential. So
everything you build for you and your family deserves protecting. All of those important assets you have worked so hard to acquire and enjoy, you want to make sure they're handled with care. At Tucker Allen, our attorneys will customize an estate plan that will work for you and your family's goals and needs. Tucker Allen, estate planning, probate, and trust administration. Visit tuckerallen.com.
But he was apparently ready to go pro. In other words,
yes,
I can see why
absolutely
a lot of athletes rely on college to prepare them,
get them
it's
into
kind of like a minor league for baseball where you get the chance to learn and grow so you're ready. And in his case, he was pretty much ready because he did well from the time he entered, like his second year.
Yeah, his second year, he actually won. He won a dunking contest, and then he got onto the All-Star team his second year, which was just really crazy because he was only 18.
The league dunking contest.
Yes, yeah, and he was the youngest player to ever win it. But I mean, like you said, he was so experienced in basketball, and I think it really has a lot to do with his dad and how he was raised. But he was so experienced that, like, I think he himself and everybody else knew that he didn't need that little in-between of growing into those new rules in college and the bigger crowds and the team and everything like that. I think he was just very much ready. He didn't have to really hone any skills to be able to make it to the pros. But he was drafted at 17, and his parents actually had to co-sign the contract.
Because he was a minor.
Yeah, and he was contracted for 3 years at around, I believe, a $3.8 million salary within those 3 years.
Huge. Around what year was this?
This was around, I believe, 96. Okay. And I mean, an 18-year-old with a $3.8 million salary and a 3-year contract is just absolutely crazy. And what's wild is he was always a fan of the Lakers. He loved the Lakers, and he just got right onto that team, and that's where he just really
stayed.
Yeah, he fit in at. And I mean, him and Shaquille O'Neal, they became a powerhouse. He was the guard, and then don't knock me, but I'm not exactly sure what position Shaquille O'Neal played, but he was the guard, I believe, for Shaquille O'Neal, who was technically like a shooter, I believe is what they called him. But I mean, they just like brought down like the league, and they just over and over won so many games and took the Lakers just above and beyond what they originally were.
So he had just a few superlatives here. The first guard in NBA history to play 20 seasons. The all-time leading scorer in Lakers history.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of great players.
He won 5 NBA championships, which is crazy.
4 NBA All-Star Game MVP awards, tied for the most in NBA history. So, I mean, won gold medals in the 2008 and 2012 U.S. Olympic teams. Even find an Academy Award in here for Best Animated Short Film.
Yeah.
And it was called Dear Basketball.
Yep.
Animated.
He just did it. Like, he did it all. And that's why I say, like, even if we knew a lot about sports and basketball and all of that and his career, we couldn't even cover it because it is so lengthy, and he was doing so much stuff, and he was just praised over and over and over by his fans. And he wasn't even like, he was a very good person. He had one little downfall in 2003 where he was accused of, but those charges actually got dropped. And we don't know like the full story or anything, but he made a public apology. And I mean, a lot of people don't think he had like anything to do with it. It was
I remember at the time having doubts. Of course, you never know, and people have strong opinions on this topic. But there was an allegation made by a woman who was in his hotel room, I guess. And
she was 19.
The question was whether it was consensual or not. Yes, you raise an important point. She was 19. She wasn't underage.
Yeah.
So she did withdraw or refuse to testify in the criminal case. Now, I don't know if that was because there was a settlement, but you can't, it's illegal to interfere with a witness to pay them to not testify. So I have to be pretty confident that it couldn't have gone down that way.
Yeah, and he was so early on in his career, too, that I don't think if there was like any type of settlement, he could have paid very much or anything like that.
Yeah, so I don't regard this as something that is credible against him. And though he did pay a settlement, again, remember the standard in a civil lawsuit is more likely than not. So, you get a right jury, and if they just barely get the evidence over the line, call it 51% confidence, that's unlike criminal, as we've talked about before on this show. The criminal standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. So I think that he would have done the math and calculated that there was a chance that people would believe her. I mean, it's his word against hers, and he paid something in that. So I think he has a clean record.
Yeah, and by all claims and everything like that, he was just a good guy. He was a very devout Catholic. He went to church. I mean, he was a great family man. He didn't really, beyond that accusation, he had, I couldn't find literally anything on him. Never got into drugs, never got into alcohol or anything.
Just a great role model.
Yeah, he was truly a wonderful role model.
And also, it's worth dwelling on, he was a great family man.
Yeah.
He called himself a girl dad.
Yes,
because all of his daughters, he just had daughters, no sons.
4 daughters.
So let's talk a little bit about his kids and his marriage.
So he met Vanessa, his wife, in 1999, and then they married in 2001. They had 4 girls, Natalia, Gigi, Bianca, and Capri. So all very, Italian names, which I found really, really cute. But Vanessa was a model, and she's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. They were just kind of the perfect little family. They did have a little bit of an upset, and I believe around 2011, Vanessa did file for divorce, and she cited irreconcilable differences, which could have been a number of things. It could have been his career, something like that. But in 2013, they announced that they weren't going through with the divorce and that they were happy and,
So they reconciled.
Yeah, they reconciled. And I don't think, I truly don't think there was ever anything, really bad that happened for a divorce. Like I said, it could have just been his career was a lot and he might not have been home with the kids as much as she wanted him to.
And, in fairness, I guess I should qualify what I said a while ago. I'd still say a role model in many respects. But, basketball players, football players, I guess baseball players, that the infidelities that often take place on the road. So that's not something that should be shrugged off.
No, definitely not. I agree.
But apparently they patched up their marriage and decided that, let's stay together.
Yeah.
And you credit them both for that because they had kids.
Yeah, and he loved his daughters, especially Gigi. He absolutely adored her, and she was very, very talented. And we'll kind of talk about what happened with her. I'm sure.
So give me
knows.
the order of the daughter's birth. There are 3.
Yeah. So it goes Natalia, Gigi, Bianca, and then Capri. And Natalia, Bianca, and Capri are the 3 that are still living.
So one, of course, died with her dad. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. She was only 13, which is very, very sad. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but I'll go ahead and say, he died, both of them died in a really tragic helicopter accident. They were actually going to play. She was going to play in a basketball game with his sports camp. It was called his Mamba sports camp. And it was in Thousand Oaks, California. So they were just taking the helicopter there. They had brought some actually other players with them and their parents, family members.
There were 8 people on that?
9, including
9
them.
people in the helicopter.
Yes. And I think
this was 2020.
2020, January 26, 2020. And I think it was mechanical failure. I've read all kinds of different things, but I believe the determining factor was mechanical failure. And the helicopter crashed and everybody died, which is just so sad.
Well, we won't linger long on this, but I thought that the cloud cover was so heavy that that clearly it was a mistake for the pilot to choose to fly.
I read a bit on that too, because I think they eventually did, and we'll talk about another lawsuit that happened, but I do think that they tried to go after the helicopter company itself too for the pilot, because I know the pilot didn't live either. Everybody on board died. But I did read that also.
Yeah. So my understanding is that that there was a cloud cover, and you rely on visuals with a helicopter. I mean, I don't think you, at least these helicopters, I don't think you fly by instruments. The pilot was experienced, but it was suggested that he felt an obligation to keep, Kobe happy.
Yeah, I think he had been like their family pilot. Like I think he had flown like their other planes and stuff like that. So I think that's why he felt the need to I have to still do this instead of tell Kobe, no, you're gonna have to drive or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And this was a game where his daughter was playing as well as the daughter of another couple that was on there.
Yeah. And it was their final game, I believe, so that's why they really wanted to make it.
Yeah, and his daughter was an excellent basketball player, we should note. I mean, she had a future.
Yeah, and she was just getting started.
Yeah, and women's basketball pro, was gaining momentum and is much more popular today even than then. So it just makes it all the more tragic because I think we needn't doubt that she would have been an excellent pro player based on how well she was doing at the time. So I think that the pilot undertook some risk, and it was foggy, and the way that the hillside rolls in that area of L.A. is that there are low-rising mountains, and it's believed, as I understand it, that they just went right into the side of it. So, I don't know how that blame was distributed, but I don't doubt that there were lawsuits all around.
Yeah, I don't either. And I think a lot of them were kind of kept on the down low just because everybody had all kinds of opinions about everything. And I think a lot of them were settled within the first year of the crash too. So I didn't read a ton on it, but I'm sure there was. Yeah,
but we can sum up Kobe personally as just, universally beloved.
Yes.
There are some players like LeBron James, very controversial. I'm sure there are more people like him than don't, but there are a lot of people who don't like him for various reasons, politics and other things. But Kobe, he just had this crystal clean reputation.
He's the only person out of all the music artists that I've ever recorded, he's the only person that a musical artist did a tribute song to.
Really?
Yeah.
And what was that tribute song?
It was just called Kobe, but as a band I recorded called Illphonics. They're like a hip-hop fusion kind of group. A little bit of gospel thrown in there, and they did a tribute to him that year.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it back to Taylor Swift like I always do. But she had a really good relationship.
You and my daughters, go ahead.
No. She had a really good relationship with Kobe Bryant, honestly. And, she's pretty picky about who she spends her time around. But even recently at her concert, during the middle of it, she gives a hat to, a child. And it's usually, a really specific child, one with cancer or something like that. And Capri was at the concert, and she gave the hat to her. And it was so, it made me cry. It was really sad.
And this is the youngest daughter.
Yeah.
Was what, 8 months old?
9 months.
9 months when he died?
She had just a really good relationship with that family. But that just, to me, that even speaks volumes still, that people recognize them. They know the family still. Vanessa is very verbose about speaking out about him and protecting his honor and so on and so forth, as we'll see.
Yeah. Truly great. Michael Jordan, incidentally, is much beloved.
Yes.
I don't think of him as having any controversy at all. And of course, again, some of our sports enthusiasts might correct me, but the gambling, okay, there have been a few scandals, maybe too strong a word, but he's a heavy gambler. But man, he's managed his career so well.
Yeah.
But Kobe was just an incredibly good guy. He loved his family. So he had 4 daughters total. Gianna dies with Kobe.
Yes.
Leaving 3 surviving daughters.
Yes.
One, as we mentioned, Capri is just 9 months old.
Yeah, she was born in 2019.
Yeah, and then he's still married. But, they kept their marriage intact. So he dies leaving a wife and 3 surviving children. You want to mention the lawsuit relating to I think photos or something taken at.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea while we're kind of still in the topic of that. So what happened after the helicopter crash is obviously first responders came and went to the site. There's a lot of things that happened. One of them I remember was that these first responders took pictures, and they also were the first ones to notify the media, and they notified TMZ first. They didn't even...
Gruesome pictures.
Yes, gruesome pictures. Nobody notified Vanessa first. She found out through TMZ that her husband and her daughter had died.
I mean, that is so appalling. It just makes you angry.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure it is now because they found out that they sent these gruesome photos to TMZ and the media, and so they had these photos, and Vanessa found out about them. They were spreading them throughout, kind of everywhere.
They regard them as souvenirs.
Yeah, they did, and they were trying to get paid for these pictures, which is just... that's absolutely disgusting to me.
So our viewers will be gratified to hear that there was a lawsuit.
Yes.
Not only did his wife, his surviving widow, bring a lawsuit, but also one of the other family
members. It was his wife and his daughter had died, and it was the father, husband, who sued
the county of L.A. And ultimately, the county paid, was it 23,
24 to Vanessa and around 19 to the father.
Million. 23 million and 19 million. And I'm sure the reason that the county decided that it made sense to pay that rather than go to trial is, can you imagine, as beloved as Kobe was, I mean, the anger that a jury would feel? I think L.A. County was fearful that they may get $100 million judgment or more against them. So I think that they got off pretty easily.
Yeah, and Vanessa's lawyer spoke out, and Vanessa has about it too. And I mean, the whole point wasn't because of the money. She had money. Obviously, someone's left for her. But she wanted to know that those photos were gone, they were deleted, and nobody has them, and that she was, again, protecting his honor. And she has consistently done that just after his death and done a lot of things for him because, I mean, she absolutely adored him. That family was a wonderful family.
Yeah. So as to this money, we're going to talk about the estate planning issues, but this money I'll mention at this juncture would not have been part of that estate in all likelihood. It was brought, I think, on behalf of the surviving family members. The intentional infliction of severe emotional distress was probably the cause of action. But in any case, maybe a breach of privacy. There are various claims. I'm sure a bunch of counts were filed in this tort action. So that money I'll set aside, but it's worth noting that the family, received a significant amount of money from this. But as you point out, it's small compared to the sort of fortune that Kobe Bryant left behind.
Yeah.
It was estimated at various numbers. Probably the one we hear most is around $600 million in terms of net worth. But even that, I suspect, is incomplete.
I truly do too, just because there's merch, there's just his name, his legacy, everything connected to that. And it's kind of like we see with singers and actors, it's that intellectual property. And it's kind of crazy sometimes to think about, sports celebrities leaving something like that. But he made an impact on the league. They renamed the All-Star Award to the Kobe Bryant Award just because of him. So that alone I don't think that's connected to his estate in any way, but that just kind of speaks volumes as to how big his name and his character is.
Yeah. And he had a long history with Nike, I think 20 years or so.
He signed with them, a contract with them in, I believe, 99.
Yeah.
So
21 years or so.
Yeah.
And some were surprised when I think it was the wife who was confronted with whether or not she was going to renew that contract. I don't think it came up before Kobe passed away. And she pulled away because I think that the terms that she felt that Nike was offering did not reflect the sort of promotional intention that she expected.
Yeah.
She really wanted them to innovate more in design. Originally, I mean, one reason that Nike sold a ton of shoes with Kobe's brand was because they innovated. They came up with the first time with the low rise.
Yeah.
And it just very unique Kobe-associated designs.
Yeah.
And as a result, they of course sold millions, made millions. So as we commonly do, we're going to break this show into 2 parts. So be sure to watch part 2 next week.
You've been listening to Life's Third Act, a podcast for thriving in retirement. Sponsored by Tucker Allen, your estate and elder law advisors. Each week we discuss topics and answer questions to help you better plan for your future. For more information, visit tuckerallen.com. Subscribe and listen again next week for another edition of Life's Third Act. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.